Here. Please welcome Keith Tidball from Cornell University, talking about taking Eden to the next level via social media and distributed networks. Thank you.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here. Welcome all of you. As he said, I'm Keith Tidball from Cornell University. We're part of, gratefully, the Extension Disaster Education Network. And what I want to talk with you about today is how we, as a state program within that national network, are attempting to take Eden to the next level. And the social media and distributed networks we talk about are a combination of the county associations that we partner with and some of the tools that I'll show you. But what I want to do first is just kind of give you a quick rundown of how we're actually conducting extension disaster education, especially in the response side of the equation. So a quick poll before I go far down that path. How many of you are using extension disaster education in the response context, if anyone? Anybody? There's a few hands. How many would like to but are not clear on how one would do that from the standpoint of land grant or extension? Okay, a couple. Well, hopefully this is one model that will be useful. Obviously, this starts with the NIFA-funded Extension Disaster Education Network. Hopefully you know about what this is, and I'm not going to belabor this point. But for us at Cornell, as the land-grant university kind of tucked back into the rural area of the state, it's an interesting challenge for us because not only do we deal with some of the more traditionally rural sorts of issues in the land-grant mission, but also we have New York City and some large, very large cities in our state that provide some different challenges for the land-grant. And so we're focused on Eden, especially after having 3 hurricanes in a row for 3 years in a row. So Eden has become a high priority for us in Cornell, and figuring out how we're going to take this to the next level is a significant challenge. So this is basically just to drill down and show you how it works for us. The big screen there is Cornell Cooperative Extension. Within that, we're representing multiple colleges, Ag and Life Sciences, Human Ecology, Industrial Labor Relations, and so forth, all of which have a specific land-grant mission and also have a presence in every county and in all 5 boroughs in New York City, something on the order of 65 association offices. Within the extension system is this all-hazard preparedness and response education project. That is one of my projects. I'm about 50-50 research and extension, and so this is one of the largest pieces of that for me. Within that are a couple of sub-projects or tasks. The New York State Resiliency Institute for Storms and Emergency, or New York RISE, governor-sponsored project. Our Cornell All Hazards Working Group, which is reaching across colleges and departments to make sure that we stay on task in the all hazards context. And then this greening in the red zone approach, I'm in the Department of Natural Resources at Cornell. So we're very interested in how community-based natural resource management can be of use in the post-disaster or pre-disaster context. Eden fits into this by virtue of what our mission is, and that is to disseminate educational materials on preparedness, assist associations in establishing partnerships, distribute credible resources during disaster, and so forth. Here is where it starts to get interesting in terms of our template, our model. This is DART. This is our Disaster All Hazards Response Team. This is our system-wide, state system-wide standard operating procedures for disasters, and we are training our people to be able to conduct that consistent with incident command systems, FEMA and other partners, and their national incident command structures. So I want to give you an example of how this works, and of course we'll use a hurricane as an example since we're getting some experience with these. Let's just say we're a couple weeks out, and as that image shows you, there's all kinds of different noise in the media about here comes a hurricane. But there's no real clear consensus about where that's going to land. There's some talk that that might hit New York State, and maybe it won't. What does extension do? In our case, we immediately activate our DART, our Disaster All Hazards Response Team, and we are in what we call a yellow or guarded status. The Disaster All Hazard Response Team is staffed by a number of people at our administrative levels, as well as specific individuals who might be useful for whatever the particular hazard may be. And it usually swells to about 12 to 15 people, depending on the incident. As we move through time, in this yellow status or guarded status, we're alerting the entire system, all those 62 plus offices, that there might be a severe weather incident, and we provide tailored preparedness guidance from the national program through our electronic and other social media channels. And then we warn the members of our larger Eden Advisory Committee and the Director of Extension in our state that this disaster all hazards team may be activated in with an official act. And once that happens, then we get some additional resources. We get additional administrative support and a few other things which we wouldn't normally have in normal times. And then at that time, we open communications with our state partners, and that generally is our Department of Environment and Conservation and our Ag and Markets groups, who are generally, when this kind of an emergency is coming online, are going to be in the State Emergency Operations Center, the bunker, and are going to be, sort of sending out communications via the land grant that there is an imminent problem potentially. And then, what do the associations do when we're in this yellow zone? They are going to determine if, and with our help, hopefully, if their county is going to be in or near harm's way, what kind of resources do they anticipate they might need, establish a point of contact, an Eden point of contact, and ensure that their county-level website, their county-level Facebook and Twitters and email lists are all ready to receive information that we're going to be generating from the National Eden and from my state office, pushing that through to them. So they don't really have to do much but transmit, and that's the beauty of these networks. And then we encourage them to familiarize or refamiliarize with the New York Eden website, the National Eden website, our DART Ag Sentinel program, which I'll talk about in a minute, the Facebook pages and all that kind of thing, because sometimes they might forget where those are. So then in our example, let's say we're seeing that the models are showing that it's likely that this thing is going to hit our state. So from that point, we go to orange. Remember that our disaster all hazards response team is active. We probably have seen some sort of a message come from the extension director, who puts out through all channels that DART is activated, and that has some implications for everybody. Once that happens, we begin to liaise directly with our state agencies in support of their incident command structure as what is thought of as a supporting agency, and we try to bring as many of the resources, both technical and information, to them as we can. And in some cases, that means I have to go to the State Emergency Operations Center in order to help if that's deemed necessary. And what are the associations then doing at the same time? They are notifying their county Office of Emergency Management that they're up on comms, if you will, for support. And in some cases, the county OEM will request the county office to assist in their Emergency Operations Center with ag and other sort of expertise areas that Extension might have. Obviously, this entails some training that should have happened in the past for these individuals to be able to be as supportive as possible, and we're working on wider coverage across the state on that. And then we ask that the counties then notify the state leadership that they are in fact up and working with those county office emergency management offices if they are up. And then we ask that they start reposting and retweeting, sharing, etc., information that's coming either from National Eden, from our state office, or from other sources that are pertinent, including state OEM and whatnot. Then we will assign an Ag Sentinel who may be an additional person that gets pulled in at the county level, or somebody that's already been identified in case we end up going to level red. And Ag Sentinel, as I mentioned earlier, is something that I want to talk to you about here at the end of the presentation. Okay, so we're at red. It's really happening. This disaster is for real. There are multiple declarations of disasters across the state, for example, and federal declarations are being discussed. It's imminent. They're coming. What now? At the state program level, we have activated our red disaster all hazards response team standard operating procedures, and at that point we begin to go searching for key faculty and technical experts who are going to help us tailor fact sheets and informational outputs. We will then have our dedicated CC administration support team tasked. That is our administrative help at the state level, and regular communications with regular meetings and appointments set up with the impacted counties or counties that are volunteering to assist nearby counties. And that then will include some periodic situation reports to Cornell admin and to the state agencies in order to assist them in their information requests in incident command structure. What are the counties then doing at this time? They are notifying the state organization, DART, of the status of their association, staff, infrastructure, and needs that they see out there in their communities. They're continuing to repost and share and retweet information that's coming through social media. And this Ag Sentinel assessment is being conducted and reported on during and immediately following. And this obviously is something that we encourage people to think about in terms of safety. We're not asking extension agents or associates to go out and put themselves in harm's way. What we're asking them to do is utilize the networks that they already have and the relationships they already have, especially in the agriculture community, and get the pulse and give that back to the state so that we can push that through and the state can respond accordingly. Because of time, I'm not going to spend any time on that slide. But what I would like to tell you about is that, like many of you, and like we've been hearing about for the last few days, we have a number of different electronic venues for doing this, and many of these are the result of assistance from my partners in the back of the room there, who helped us get up on our communications with Twitter and Facebook, also regular email channels and listservs, so that we have the wide coverage that we need in the event that this sort of scenario were to unfold. And those are key components of the approach. And with the time that I have left, I want to share with you this specific thing, this Ag Sentinel, which is an ag damage assessment and reporting system, including a visualization. I apologize that this is a little small, but what you see on this side here is a form. That is a agricultural damage reporting form that looks like forms you've probably seen before. It's based on the one that was generated at Penn State. What we ask is that in every county, when we're at that red, that the agriculture agent, or perhaps it's the executive director, get somebody appointed to begin this process and begin to assess the situation out there in their respective counties. Now, in the past, we get a flood of these things in either pencil filled out or whatnot, coming back to basically my office. And what we struggled with is finding a way to capture that information, collate it, and then create a visualization of that information so that it can be used in real time, not a week from now once I finally get it all figured out and sorted out. So what we did with the help of some funding from the Agriculture and Markets state organization there in New York was develop a visualization tool. So ideally, this thing that you see on the right is on one of the 10,000 screens in that Emergency Operations Center in Albany. The Department of Ag and Markets has a little booth like everybody else, and they're able to see in real time and scroll through this what's going on per county. And I'm going to try to show you this if I can. Bear with me just a second. So in an ideal sense, each county agricultural agent is putting information into this, and in addition to that, there's already a ready-made template that will give you the agricultural census data on a county basis. It'll give you basic demographics of that county. It'll give you population. What does this mean, sir? Here we go. And what they can do is the person who's actually utilizing this can scroll through and see what's happening. And what that's used for is, about every 2 hours, the incident commander in the bunker is asked to provide some sort of update, and it goes into reporting that goes to the governor's office, which begins to set the stage for how a federal declaration may or may not occur. It also helps target resources. As we know, there are disaster funds that come to the agriculture sector, for example, but those take a long, long time. Those are way, way out there. What we're trying to do with this is say, what is the agricultural community or sector experiencing right now, and what are the needs 5 minutes from now, 5 hours from now, 5 days from now, and so forth, long before FSA or others are really involved. So this is just an example. Here's the name of, you see where it says fourth disaster up here. Where is the little light? There it is. you could just substitute Hurricane Sandy or whatever for what that says, and then you would be able to click back to that, and it would give specific information on. It's unfortunate these computers are kind of slow. This would give explicit information on what was going on in the ag sector for fourth disaster, Hurricane Sandy. So this is all fake data, obviously, but this is just an example of what you would see. Our county, Albany, in here you can click, and this will give you demographic information about that county. And often, you can imagine in an emergency operation context, people are saying, so what's going on? All right, we hear this bad stuff going on in Albany. This will give you all the information that you need in a heads-up display on what's happening in Albany County. And so they're like, okay, so we have 20 farms affected out of, now we know how many, and now we have a general sense of acreage that might be affected and so forth. Then, see if I can see what's going on here. Apologize, it's a little slow moving back and forth. Then you can see the next column is status. Whether they're yellow or red corresponds to that information I showed you before. Some municipalities in this particular context in Albany County are being declared disaster or emergency status. And we need then to know in Albany County, what's the agricultural assessment? So this person, Heather Russell, is as an ag agent there in Albany County. She's already done a form. She's posted it here, or the bullet points from that form here, and there would be then a link to a PDF of the form that she submitted to me. It goes directly to that. And then there would be any additional images that she would like to share from her county. These things end up being very important as we've tested this, because often people will put 4 or 5 pictures of the farm that's got the river flowing through it now and what's actually floating down. It's amazing how blind the Emergency Operations Center really is in terms of the ag sector and what's happening in real time during a disaster. They're just hearing bits and pieces and some media reporting. They're not getting real good information, and that's been one of the frustrations, at least in New York State, among the ag community and also the natural resources communities in disaster management, is why can't we get real-time reporting and visualization of that reporting? So you can see down the list, this is something that can be easily used in all the counties. So here we can see, well, look, all these counties over in this section of the state don't have much going on. They're not affected. Is there resources, or are there resources over there, or staff or personnel that can lend a hand? So in addition to what's going on in the State Emergency Operations Center in terms of information exchange and having this heads-up display, we're also able to identify where other resources and help might be able to exist. Now, this is useful not only for the emergency management group in the state capitol bunker, but it's also useful, at some point, the president of the university or somebody in that echelon calls and says, what's going on? And what are we doing about it? We're able to very quickly with this tool say, here's what's going on as far as we understand it. Here is what the land-grant university is doing about it. And we feel like that's a very important thing to be able to say, and a very important thing to be able to report in terms of the visibility and viability of not only the land-grant, but the extension program within the land-grant in these kinds of situations that are in front of everybody. The media is usually all over these kinds of things. And so we're able to quickly report, and sometimes be ahead of the news media on what is going on and what we're doing about it. So that's, and I'm just about at the end of my time here. So that's what I wanted to share with you in terms of taking it to the next level, at least in terms of what we're doing in New York. We're not trying to say that this is perfection by any stretch. But what we would like to say is that this is one possibility, one way of taking Eden, which is increasingly is growing in stature and visibility. I think I just heard from Steve last night that probably a growth area within extension disaster education is the response side of the equation. And so what we're trying to show here is that here's a way to use the networks that we have already out there in the counties and their linked social media and other electronic media, and use that as a way to be more effective and more efficient and also more visible at the state level when disaster strikes. So I think I have 1 or 2 minutes if there were a question I could take. Any questions? A printout in pencil kind of form, is that what you're referring to? We want to figure this problem out because that is the slowdown in the process. Do you have a suggestion for how? TIPCO? Huh. You know, we're trying to figure out a way to just have it a clickable form that's just online that you don't have to print out or take out. But on the other hand, they want to have something on a clipboard when they're out and about that they bring back. And so there are some challenges with the interface at this time. The other thing that we are dealing with this visualization tool is the agriculture sector or members of that sector don't want all their business on the street just because there's a disaster. So there are some implications for, you know, controlling access to this information. And apparently that indicates or that constrains us a little bit in the types of forms that we can use and whatnot. So it's a great point, and we're trying to figure out how to manage that. Qualtrics? Yeah. Yes. You know, we're just moving apparently to some new technology at Cornell, and I believe that some of these problems will be fixed as a result.
It's really cool to see this. We've talked about it, and I see a lot of applications and different ways of using it in different states. And some of our states have access to what's called Web EOC, and so it's a web-based emergency operations center. And I could see in our state we would probably take this kind of idea and put it right into the Web EOC. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get ours into the command center, like you said, in New Albany. So. Cool idea, and it's a tool that I think can be used different ways. And check out the Web EOC in your state if you haven't.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Hold on a second. He's going to get you the microphone.
Just the presentation dashboard. What actually is that? It's just a. What template is? What does that build in?
It's part of an access sort of base.
Okay.
It's not my area.
Right. Yeah. That's what.
Yes, the whole thing is built in the SharePoint system, which we're in the middle of a migration, perhaps away from. So I don't know. I just wait and see how it affects me as usual.
Do we have any more questions or comments for Dr. Tidball?
Well, I thank you very much for the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
You didn't. Nope.